Gaming phones. You've seen them at least once or twice before. These phones boasting with the craziest specs, the most powerful processors, insane amounts of RAM, and gaming features not present on normal phones. But recently, the gaming phone market is dying. Many of these phones were discontinued, and their relevancy is slowly declining. But why? Well, in this video, we'll be answering a simple question. What happened to gaming phones? Imagine this. It's 2003. The Game Boy Advance is dominating handheld gaming, and Nintendo seems untouchable. Sega has already bowed out after the Game Gear, leaving no real rival. But then Nokia, which was the king of mobile phones, decides to challenge Nintendo with something bold. Enter the Nokia N-Gage, a game-changing device at its time. It could run 3D games. Games like Tomb Raider and Tony Hawk Pro Skater were just the many examples this thing could do. But there was one major problem. The device appealed to none. I mean, look at the thing. For gamers, the controls were clunky, too many buttons, weird placement, and a design that felt more like a phone pretending to be a controller. For casual phone users, it just looked really bizarre, almost like a gadget from a sci-fi parody. Ergonomics were terrible, the screen was tiny, and worst of all, you had to remove the battery just to swap game cartridges. As expected, the N-Gage flopped. It became more of a meme than a competitor, remembered today as a quirky experiment rather than a true rival to Nintendo. Years later, Sony tried with Xperia Play in 2011, also known as the PlayStation phone. It had a slide-out gamepad and a PlayStation branding, but weak hardware, a small game library, and a bulky design that kept it from catching on. Both devices showed the same problem. Gaming phones struggled to balance being a good phone and a good console, which would become the recurring challenge for every gaming phone that followed. Until by the late 2010s, smartphones had become powerful enough to rival consoles in raw performance. This was the moment gaming phones truly caught on. Big names jumped in, each creating their own identity, which were the Razer phone, the pioneer. Razer was the first to prove gaming phones could be serious contenders. With its 120Hz display, front-facing stereo speakers, and clean design, it set the standard for smooth mobile gaming. It didn't have flashy RGB, but it showed the world that high refresh rates belonged on phones. The Asus ROG Phone, the powerhouse. Asus went all in, building phones that looked and felt like gaming rigs. Active cooling docks, shoulder triggers, customizable RGB logos, and aggressive styling made the ROG phone the ultimate gamer badge. It wasn't just a phone, it was a literal portable gaming setup. Xiaomi's Black Shark, the affordable option. Black Shark carved its niche by offering high performance at lower prices. With bold designs, detachable controllers, and gamer-centric accessories, it gave budget-conscious players a way to join the gaming phone club without breaking the bank. Finally, the Nubia Red Magic, the experimental brand. Red Magic pushed boundaries with built-in cooling fans, touch-sensitive shoulder buttons, and RGB lighting strips. It leaned heavily into esports marketing, positioning itself as the flashy, futuristic choice for hardcore mobile gamers. Honorable mention, the Lenovo Legion phone. It was the first phone to center around landscape gaming. It had side-mounted pop-up cameras, and it had dual batteries. All of these brands pushed gaming phones to their limits, but the hype couldn't last. As mainstream flagships caught up, the cracks began to show, and the decline began. As the years go by, gaming phones have been no more than very expensive gimmicks, and there are reasons why. Firstly, mainstream flagships caught up. High refresh rate displays, large batteries, and powerful processors became standard on iPhones, Galaxies, and other flagships. Even budget phones had high refresh rates. Once these features were no longer exclusive, gaming phones lost their unique selling point. Secondly, the biggest mobile hits, Clash of Clans, PUBG Mobile, Genshin Impact, and many others ran perfectly fine on regular phones. And also, hardcore features like cooling fans, shoulder triggers, and RGB lighting didn't matter to the majority of players. Third, they weren't great daily drivers. Cameras were often weaker compared to mainstream phones. Designs were bulky and heavy, making them impractical for everyday use. And software updates and long-term support lagged behind major brands, usually with only 1 or 2 years, leaving users stuck with outdated systems. Fourth, the audience was too small. Gaming phones had fans, but it was a small group. Without a big market, companies couldn't keep spending money to make new models every year. Finally, at around this time, handheld consoles stole the spotlight. The Nintendo Switch, Steam Deck, and ROG Ally gave gamers something phones couldn't: bigger screens, real buttons, and a full gaming system built just for play. For serious gamers, these consoles were simply the better choice. Gaming phones promised power, style, and a new way to play. For a moment, they felt like the future. But as regular phones caught up, casual gaming stayed simple, and handheld consoles stole the spotlight, the niche collapsed. In the end, gaming phones became a story of ambition that couldn't balance practicality and passion. They burned bright and then faded, leaving behind their RGB lights, cooling fans, and shoulder triggers as relics of a short-lived dream. So, what happened to gaming phones? They tried to be both a console and a phone, and ended up being neither.